Hi, good morning everyone. I apologize about this video supposedly to come early, tetapi because of so many things going on, and in fact I just came back from my long holiday, so I have to postpone the recording. Okay, so what are we discussing for untuk chapter 5? Alright, so chapter 5 is your final chapter after you have done your analysis. Okay, so talking about the analysis, if you guys have done the whole chapter 4 analysis, feel free to approach me, state the date and time, and share your WebEx link, okay, so that we can have an online discussion. So we can actually do it over this weekend or even next week, for the whole week that you guys are having your mid-semester break. So because right after you come back from your holiday, from your mid-semester break, you're going to do a group presentation, okay? So approach me, share with me the results, because I need to see what are the whole entire findings, starting from the demography profiling up until your regression analysis. Okay, and now we are discussing about what should you include into your chapter 5. Okay, all right. Okay, so how to begin? So basically chapter 5 is entirely your 100% original work. Okay, because the previous chapters are all taken from past studies, so even the theory you adopted was also from past studies. Even though I said that you can replicate, but it doesn't mean that you copy 100% the same study from the past, but most likely that we replicate the model or the theory. However, in terms of the background, the demography profiling, the respondents are all different. So most likely the findings that you're going to have or receive um, based on your analysis of chapter 4 will be slightly different from what you have encountered in the previous studies that I referred to. Okay, so in this chapter, it's actually wanted to answer so what, okay, in terms of the question. So the emphasizing is not about summary, but you wanted to create meaning. How this study give impact to others? What does these findings of my study can contribute to others? And will that be give an implication to both the academic and the industry part? Okay, so in the discussion section, when you start with your chapter 5, of course, the first thing is you should have your introduction. All right, all chapters should have an introduction. Okay, but for chapter 4, most of the students' mistakes were they normally repeat what chapter 4 has concluded. So indirectly, what I'm saying is some students or some of the students in the previous group, they repeat, okay, the findings. They indicate again, or they write again the findings from chapter 4. So in which this is incorrect. Okay, so let me emphasize, you should not repeat the findings of chapter 4. So on top of that, instead of repeating the findings in chapter 4, what you need to do is to provide analysis. Okay, let's say that you have 5 hypotheses. Okay, let's say you have 5 hypotheses. So what you need to do in writing your chapter 4 is not to repeat the results or the finding in chapter 4, in which that hypothesis 1 support, hypothesis 2 not supported, with the figure, the p-value, the beta value. You don't have to state the p-value, the beta value again. But what you need to do is to provide justification. Okay, if the finding of your hypothesis 1 is supported, so you explain and provide justification, from your the reading that you had done in the previous studies. If your findings is similar to other studies that you refer to, okay, meaning that you are aligned with the findings of your study are aligned with other studies. So you can give your justification. Why is it aligned? All right. And the second part is when your study, your findings, ataupun your hypothesis is not supported. Okay, this is the most critical part. When it is not supported, you need to justify why is it not supported, why your findings, your results of hypothesis is different from those in the past or previous studies that you refer to. So here is where you need to include matters like background of the group, the people, the respondents that you approach, the culturally background different, the way of thinking, the behavior of the people that you are studying at the moment in Malaysia is slightly different from others. That is why your findings is different. Your hypothesis result is different, it's not supported. But don't worry, even if your study is not supported, it doesn't mean that your study is not good. Having your hypothesis not supported is also a finding, okay? But you need to justify why the hypotheses are not supported, okay? So in your chapter 5, start with the introduction, and then you go to the discussion section, okay, chapter 5. So in the discussion section, you have to indicate what are the hypothesis results, and for each of the hypothesis result, you justify your reasons why is it supported and why is it not supported. Okay, so next, okay, right after you have done your discussion, you have to write on the implication of the study. So on this part of the implication is, it has two parts. First is the theoretical implication, followed by the practitioner implication. Okay, so kalau the theoretical implication, most likely it provide, how your study can assist or can help future academic studies. Okay, I give you an example statement here. Okay, and meaning that the theory that you use, okay, with the findings of your study can support future study, future researcher who wanted to do similar study using similar theory. All right, second part is your practitioner implication. So this part, basically, you need to discuss how does your study give impact to the industry, to the practitioner, to the government, or the decision maker. Okay, so apa dia punya impact dia yang berkesan that can help out this practitioner. Okay, then move on to the conclusion. So you have done your discussion based on the hypothesis. Each and every hypothesis, you have to discuss, followed by the implication of the study on both academic and practitioner. The third part is actually to write your conclusion. So writing your conclusion is actually referring to how you address the research problem come your research question. So I give you example, some other example here, and then you have to summarize what's your main findings, the ones that is supported, and then you end with a very strong forward-looking statement. Okay, so how does this can be continued study in the future or can be continued address in the future? Okay, and The second last is actually to discuss about the limitation. Okay, everyone has a limitation. Any study would have a limitation. Tetapi nanti when you're discussing about limitation, you can actually look into several aspects. Could be that on the methodological part. So for instance, that you can say your study only limited to EMS student. Okay, so in future, most likely you can suggest that the study can be expanded in terms of the respondents, not only limited to the UMS student, but also Gen Z in general. Contohnya, or you can talk about theoretical, your scope boundary limited only in Malaysia or in Sabah, right? But in future, you might want other researcher to look into more bigger boundary, Semenanjung or other Asian country. Okay, so similar to the resources or the practical approach, you this is only limited due to it's a cost project done for your course and the for your subject, and the duration is so limited. You have about a few months to complete this. So in future, mungkin you can state that you can expand the number of respondents because your respondents is only 100 plus something. But in future, you can actually expand further so that the impact will greatly cover many other sample size. Okay, and on the future research, yeah, you can actually look into several types of future research. You might want to suggest future researcher to have an extension of the study to different contexts of population or even country. You can do comparison even, and then you can also suggest type 2 deepening to deepen the studies. You wanted to suggest future investigation should use a different mechanism, or you wanted the study can be done mixed method by adding qualitative study. Or the third one is application studies. You can also mention that the findings of your study currently can be done further for future work by testing on a different aspect. Okay, meaning that you add on the objective or the research questions so that you can have a greater coverage of the findings. Okay, so I guess that's all that you should be concerned on in your chapter 5. All right, so chapter 5, I summarize again. You should have the introduction. In fact, that for other chapters also, you should have introduction dulu before you begin with the other content. So in chapter 5, start with the introduction, followed by the discussion based on each and every single hypothesis, whether it's support or not support, and provide your justification why. And then you should also discuss about the implication of the study to the practitioner and to the academic. And then you talk about the conclusion, what basically has been covered in your study, and address the key important results. And lastly, you talk about your limitation of study as well as your future research. So that's supposed to be in your chapter 5. So all in all, you must have what? 5 chapters. So chapter 1 roughly would cover methods. The one important in chapter 1 is your background of the study, problem statement, your research question, research objective, your significance of study, and your definition of the key terms. In chapter 2, you should have also, of course, the introduction, followed by the theory that you adopt for your study, and then you write about the past studies, the literature review of every single variables. Then you talk about the past studies on the relationship between variables. Okay, and right after you write the relationship between variables, you state the hypothesis. Right, so let's say that your first relationship is between um, perceived value towards purchase intention. Example. So at the end, after you have write the past studies, what you have discovered from the past studies on the relationship between these two variables, you have to say H1 based on the above discussion, the following hypothesis is proposed. So H1 is there is a significant relationship between perceived value and purchase intention. Contoh, and then followed by the following hypothesis. That is in your chapter 2. In your chapter 2 also, you have to indicate the theory that you adopt and your framework, research framework that you are proposing for your study. So in chapter 3 will be on the methodological part. You need to indicate what is your research design. Most likely your research design is using quantitative study. You have to identify the table of measurement where the adopt and the original and the adopt and adapt. Okay, you have to have that table for each and every of your variable, and then followed by your sample size, population. First is population, and then your sample size. All right, what method do you use to determine the sample size? Followed by your data collection. What is the methodology of your data collection? Probability, non-probability, what are the methods? Okay, you have to choose either one. Most likely yours is non-probability. Okay, and then followed by what is the method you're going to use in chapter 4 for data analysis. So in your case, you use SPSS and you provide summary. So in chapter 4, you have your introduction, followed by the table on demography profiling that you have self-created, okay, based on the findings that you received, that you have done analysis on the descriptive analysis, and then followed by apa lagi, reliability analysis. So you should have a table, a new construct table for all of the variables and their alpha value, Cronbach alpha value. And then the third one will be your correlation analysis in the table, and your analysis in which that you should indicate which of the relationship provide strong, moderate, or weak relationship. And the last table will be on your regression. So you should have the the summary table and ANOVA table and your regression table. Okay, so for those who have mediator, okay, your part is different. So you need to have a different approach. Okay, untuk ini, for this group who has a mediator, so you need to consult me on how to write your findings. So set a time where you can actually meet me online and discuss and show me what you have done. I need to see first what you have done before I give my suggestion for improvement. For those who do direct relationship, fine, you don't have any problem. But those who have a mediator, you have an additional approach on how you're going to analyze the mediating factor. Okay, so that's for chapter 4, and today I have covered chapter 5. All right, so please come forward, approach me, set time so that we can actually meet online for discussion. For now, all the best. Okay, so I'll see you soon. Right, take care, and happy holiday.